Advanced Audit and Assurance, Lesson 1, International Regulatory Frameworks. And we shall cover 3 elements. Firstly, the need for regulatory frameworks for audit and assurance. Secondly, what sort of public oversight exists of the audit profession. And thirdly, the role of corporate governance, both for the entity itself, but also for the audit profession. So, let's think about what sort of regulatory framework exists for audit and assurance and why we need them. Now, it's important for a recap here and for you to recall what previous studies taught you about an assurance engagement. And let's have a look at the paragraph from the IASB glossary. So, an assurance engagement is one in which a practitioner expresses a conclusion designed to enhance the degree of confidence of the intended users other than the responsible party. So there are 3 parties to this arrangement. Firstly, the practitioner. Secondly, the intended user. And third, the responsible party. The responsible party is responsible for the subject matter. The practitioner is there to verify and provide assurance about that subject matter in order to provide a degree of confidence that that information does have validity for the intended user. Now, what sort of need is this for? Well, ultimately, the intended user needs to make an informed investment decision based upon the information that is being presented. And therefore, if there's a knowledge that that information has been reviewed by a third party, then that enhances confidence, it enhances trust, it enhances reliance on the information in order to make those informed investment decisions, and hopefully it has minimized or at least reduced any potential bias in that information because it's been looked at by a third independent party. So it's all about enhancing confidence, allowing the user of the information to have the confidence to use that information to make an informed investment decision. So that's the objective of an assurance engagement. Okay? It is there to enhance confidence. Now we need to think about what's happened to the audit profession recently in the headlines. And unfortunately, there have been a number of corporate failures that have existed over the last few years. Now notice, I'm talking about corporate failures. Sometimes individuals often talk about audit failures, but this is not appropriate. It's a corporate failure. So Wirecard in Germany, Carillion and Patisserie Valerie in the United Kingdom. These are organisations that have failed. And from these failures have come criticism of the external auditors. The criticism being that the work that they have done was of poor quality, that they hadn't done enough, nor had they raised this alarm when going through this information and realising that there was some sort of financial difficulty. Now, a reaction to these corporate failures has therefore resulted in this increased regulation and certainly an increase in public oversight of what auditors actually do. It's all about, remember, the enhancement of confidence of the user in order to make an informed investment decision. Now, why do we need regulation? Well, we need to ensure that the standard of work being performed by an auditor is being monitored. Okay, so where does this come from? Well, it comes from the audit industry itself, the actual firm itself, who requires quality procedures, but also independent regulators. So regulators who have oversight of the audit firms themselves. We need to ensure there is constant high quality work. We need to ensure there's sufficient work being done in terms of enhancing the confidence of the user in terms of the information being presented. And ultimately, we are there to protect the reputation of this quality profession. Now, where did this audit regulation derive from? Well, it comes from three main areas. Firstly, actual auditing standards, but also standards in relation to assurance engagements. Now, this is a sort of form of self-regulation. So the profession itself produces these standards. But of course, we perform this work within the wrapper of a law. And therefore, there will be UK, there'll be international, there'll be laws, regulations to actually govern what sort of information is being used in order to be able to enhance that confidence. The auditors have a duty of care for the wider, or to the wider public, and therefore there will also be potential independent regulators outside of the firms to ensure that the audit is being done correctly, the quality level is very, very high, and that these auditing standards, which are hopefully fit for purpose, are actually being implemented. So in relation to the standards, well, we have this term, the IASB, so the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, and we have the IESBA, the International Ethics Standards Board, and these organisations produce codes, but also the actual standards, which have got to be adopted internationally when going through an audit and also an assurance engagement. Now, we have this International Federation of Accountants, and it is the IFAC Federation in which the IASB and also the IESB, so the Standards Board and the Ethics Board, exist. The IASB, they produce these ISAs, the International Standards on Auditing, which is the framework against which an audit must be conducted. And the International Ethics Standards Board, the IESBA, produces a code of ethics for professional accountants, a code which must exist when doing an audit, but also in the actual daily life of an external auditor and a professional accountant. Now, these are international, and every country will differ slightly, and therefore it's absolutely vital that these standards are not followed blindly, but are potentially adapted to ensure that it is relevant for the area, for the country in which this audit is being produced. And hence, as I've said there, across the globe, across the world, we have more than 100 countries which have taken the auditing standards and they have adopted them, and they've either used them or they've slightly amended them so that they have their own national standards. But ultimately, the auditing standards, the ethical standards, are against which you must work. Now, in the UK, we have ISAs, but notice it's ISAs UK, because they've been slightly adapted in order to be consistent with the UK market. In relation to the Code of Ethics, well, we have the ACCA's Code of Ethics, which is based upon the Ethics Standards Board Code, and in which you must work. Now, the IAASB also produces other standards. So they include standards on what sort of quality control must exist within an audit, but also an audit firm. They produce ISAEs, which are standards on assurance engagements, which of course include audit. We also have ISREs, which provide standards on a review engagement, which differs from an audit, differing level of assurance. And we have ISRSs, standards on related services. So the ISAs apply to audits, but also all of these individual standards, they also provide, or they also relate to audit and assurance engagements as well. And we will use these going forward.